Welcome everybody to the Norton Planning Board's meeting of Tuesday, December 19th, 2023. Again, this is a hybrid meeting, so members of the public and board members are welcome to join in person or remotely. Today among the board, we have 3 members here in person and 3 members joining remotely, so they don't continue to spread all of the germs which are going around everywhere right now. Anybody looking to join us in person, this meeting is at the Norton Media Center. You can also join via the Zoom link available on the meeting agenda, meeting ID 638-929-1060. There is also a phone number available to dial in directly via phone, and the meeting will also be available live on Norton Cable Access Channel 15. For future sessions, please feel free to email questions for the board ahead of the meeting to Brian Carmichael, town staff, so they can be shared with members ahead of the meeting for discussion and comment as those items come up. So, calling the meeting to order here. We don't have any planning board business or policies or bills and warrants or minutes to deal with at this time. I do want to just give a quick overview of the meeting agenda because there have been some late breaking updates with some of the items listed on the public hearing section of the agenda. So to give a quick summary, we'll have separate motions for all of these as they come up. 0 Mansfield Avenue. This applicant is seeking continuance to February 6th. It's 300 South Washington Street. Yes, yeah. Is also seeking continuance to January 9th. And 0 Rear Eddy Street is also seeking continuance to January 9th. So we will be looking to do individual motions for each of those, and I'll go into a little bit more detail. I just wanted to speak to all 3 of them right off the top. So the first one, again, this is 0 Mansfield Avenue. This is SPR 20100, 20103, 20106, as well as special permit 19928, 19935, and 20107. This applicant is seeking to actually withdraw 2 of a site plan and a special permit from that set. They have expressed that the direction they are going is toward the potential removal of construction on what was known as Lot E, so the triangle lot closest to the intersection. And they're still waiting for some updated peer review and different things like that. So that is the reason for their request for continuance to February the 6th. Do we have any discussion or questions related to that at this time?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to speak against granting a continuance.
Sure. If you don't mind, I'll see if any of the board members have any questions, and I'll ask you to come up and speak.
Do we need a motion to approve the request for withdrawal? Is it up for?
Did they formally ask to withdraw, or I would expect the formal withdrawal.
There was a letter in the file.
And did they specify?
Without prejudice.
Without prejudice? Okay, thank you. So yes, we would.
We need to vote on that.
We can vote on that now. We could, in theory, vote on it at a later date as well.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. We can continue it and withdraw it later, or we can withdraw it and not continue it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Alan, Steve, or Jim, since all 3 of you are joining us remote this evening, any of you have any specific comments or questions at this time?
No, I do not.
Negative.
Okay.
No, I'm all set.
Okay. We did have one member of the public who wanted just to come up and speak briefly on this. So, sir, if you don't mind coming up to the podium and introducing yourself with your name and address, and that'll get you on camera there.
My name is Jim Shabbat. I remain at 56 Mansfield Avenue. I know you've got a good memory, so.
It's nice to have it self-contained within each meeting. So.
That's true. That's true. I've got a handout to speak to towards not granting a continuance.
Thank you.
As you might remember, I had asked that the hearing be closed and this be voted on at the very first public hearing. So in effect, I've been against granting a continuance from the first hearing. And as it's progressed, my feelings have not been assuaged as the facts have changed. I'm going to skip over a few points just to keep this as short as possible. The first page is just simply showing, it was stated that the master plan saw a need for housing growth, and this first page shows that that need was shown on Pine Street and on Newland Street. The site in question would be, if you look at the southern end of the reservoir, it's bubble number 90, and it's clearly shown as there's a need for neighborhood shops in that area. Moving to the next page, it says Norton's primarily a residential town. Well, if we're primarily a residential town, we need to diversify. With large amounts of open space, there's a few nodes and commercial corridors, including Village Center and Charlie Corner. And it talked about job growth, and Norton's job growth between 2010 and 2017 was 10.4%, where our neighbors have grown. Mansfield grew at 14.5%, and the state as a whole grew at 12.5%, so we're a little shy on that. The next page, page 20 in the master plan, talks about compact mixed-use or larger-scale commercial development at key locations. But the big thing it talks about is if there's going to be housing in Village Commercial, which is a commercial district, that it be alternative housing designs, apartments above houses. These are things I'm sure you're very familiar with as you develop the master plan. But I did want to just address what was said as not being accurate. So I'll move quicker than I would have. The next two pages talk about economic development. Showing our job growth as being lower than Mansfield and Rehoboth and the state as a whole. I would guess that if we looked at other towns such as Foxborough and North Attleboro, we'd find that they probably outpaced us as far as job growth, which means we're primarily a town where we have to travel for work and we have to travel for services. We have to travel to find a restaurant, to find a grocery store, to find most everything. And it's been that way since I can remember. But as recently, and if we go quick to the next page, which is page 21 in the master plan, which is a map, and it shows the 140 and 123 corridors as non-residential zoning. Next page talks about the particular site, which is the Village Center and Route 123, 140 corridors. It says within a mile of the Village Center, and we're within a half a mile, there are numerous vacant and underutilized parcels that have the potential for development or redevelopment. It says the Village Center is a crucial site for compact mixed-use development and small business growth. I said at the first hearing, if we lose the opportunity for this growth, it's gone. We've always been a town without a center, and we have to be careful not to lose the option. We have to believe in ourselves. Goal 3.2 on the next page talks about supporting existing institutions and local business community by maintaining businesses and attracting new firms. And I've highlighted a bunch of things, but the big point is we can't support existing businesses if we allow residences all around them. We basically create obstacles to growth. We create obstacles to what we were looking for, which is a walkable village center where people can get the services they need and desire without travel. And if we allow residential growth all around them, we're basically hampering them and certainly not going to attract others who know that coming into an area where there's a lot of residential growth is going to be difficult for a business. The next page, I took a picture of a sign. It's not exactly on the site, but very close to the site. It's a sign for the rezoning to village commercial, and I took that picture to show that this ink isn't even dry on the page yet. We haven't given anywhere near enough time to give up on our dream, to give up on our goal. We've just started on this. This isn't time to shoot ourselves in the foot. The sign's not really clear, but the public hearing date was April 5th of 2022. And I guess, and I think I brought it up at the first hearing, I'm making the same plea that Frederick Douglass made in regards to slavery. We're not asking for anything special. We're just asking for what has been promised. We're asking, this is what was promised us, this was presented to town meeting. We're just asking for what was promised. And frankly, I have no idea what you people are thinking. There's been very little, there's been a lot of talk from the developer, there's been very little from the board, so it's hard to get a feel. So if you're already on board, if you already agree with me, that's great, but please understand that I have no idea. And that's the main reason I continue to, I guess, beat this drum.
Okay.
Moving very quickly, I'll skip the next page. I've drawn a plan. Speaking of density, I made the statement at the last hearing that we're looking at an increase of density between 5 and 6 times what would be allowed. The worst case scenario would be residential growth in a commercial district. The only by right residential allowed would be single family. And I've done the best I could. I've come up with 11 lots maximum. I think if someone were to really, really, really work at it, they might be able to squeak a 12th lot out of it. If you divide the total dry land area by 16,000, you come out to 13.8. So I would be pretty confident in saying that 13 is an impossible number. And the number we presently have before us is 60. And last page is 2 pictures, and this is the tale of 2 properties. This is government that did the wrong thing and government that did the right thing. On the left, there's a parcel. It's on the corner of Reservoir and Cobb Street, I believe. It's a 10,888 square foot parcel. This was formerly the site of a, it was like a village store. The Grove area had a store on that corner way, way back. It turned into a pretty rough place. I think they possibly might have sold things that weren't necessarily legal there, and after a while it closed, and it was vacant for quite some time. Later on it became a laundromat. I'm not sure how that ever happened because the property had been vacant for over 2 years, but it did. It was a laundromat for quite a while, and then once again, it lay dormant for over 2 years, leaving this parcel with basically the right to build nothing there. It was a non-conforming lot. It had already been developed. There was no grandfathered rights. It was basically gone. The responsible thing to do would not be, of course, to leave it vacant and falling into further disrepair. The responsible thing would be to restore it as part of the neighborhood. A developer came in, and I believe he asked to put 12 units on this 10,000 square foot site. And I don't know if that sounds familiar, but it sure seems familiar to me. Because I believe this is the same situation we have now. It's something similar. The board continued to listen to this developer for a long, extended period of time, not just this board, but the zoning board. And through a combination, I'm not exactly sure, but I believe it was special permit, site plan, and variances, there's now a 4-unit building on a 10,000 square foot lot in the middle of a single family undersized lot neighborhood. And anybody that's driven by there will tell you it just doesn't look right. But that was the price to pay for listening and listening and listening until the developer sounded reasonable. If we move down a little further down the street on the corner of Reservoir and Elm, we've got a 30,000 square foot lot that previously cited, I believe the last use there was a daycare or possibly a preschool. It became vacant. It laid dormant for a matter of time. It was starting to go to rack and ruin. But a different scenario came about there. If you look at it, there's now a single-family home there. It's on the large size for the Grove, but that's the existing building. So they took the existing building, the town allowed them to redevelop that building, not change the footprint, and have one unit there, which, my opinion, is responsible. It restored that area to the neighborhood. So I just wanted to present that as a good scenario, a bad scenario, and a warning, should you continue this hearing, you're moving toward that bad scenario. So
Okay.
I would ask the board, please, don't continue this. Stop the public hearing, vote on it, and if the applicant wants to reapply, he's certainly free to. Thanks for listening to me.
If you don't, I'll
Okay.
just say, I think this is.
I was trying to save your time, that's why I
No,
wasn't running away
and
from you.
No, and from a dialogue perspective, I appreciate your thoughts about don't continue a hearing if you already know what your decision is going to be.
Right.
I think that's a balance that I always try to strike.
Mhm.
Different towns do it differently, for better or for worse. I know I've heard a story, there's one, I want to say this was somewhere on the Cape, where a developer presented a project to them, they took the presentation binder, threw it back in their face and says, we don't do those projects here, goodbye. So that's the extreme.
And as you know from another project, that ends up with the court granting the permit.
Well,
That was last week.
I was talking about something going on.
No, I know that, but I mean, that's the kind of, you're right, you can't do that.
So, what I always try to do is understand what is being presented to us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want a developer to spend all of their time and efforts doing something that's a dry hole.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if we don't know what the final project actually looks like, it's hard to tell them, stop.
Correct, I agree.
Especially in a case like this one where they're saying, we're now looking at eliminating a third of what the development would be.
Well, and that's the other, and, yeah, also.
Any number of things could drive that, so that's.
The other thing that come up was conservation, and you raised a very valid point, the last one, about working with conservation. And you're right, we always did. So, I guess I've got a question to ask. Has any member of the board gone to talk to the conservation agent regarding this project?
See, regarding this project specifically,
Yes.
I don't believe I've talked to them directly about this project, but I was, last week or 2 weeks ago, where I started in person.
I think it was 2 weeks ago, last paper.
But we're.
Not throwing darts, just
Yeah.
asking a question, okay?
I mean, we are aware
Yeah.
of the concept, the reason
Right.
the parking lots are in the front is because conservation asked for a reversal of the site,
Well,
so.
that's why, one of the things I did on the board was I always would go immediately after the meeting and talk with the conservation agent to find out if the applicant was straightforward. And so in any case, I did, I stopped to talk to John, and that is the concept because of the size of the project.
Of course.
And one of the things I asked him, I said, if this project were reduced to the density allowed by right, which is 12 units, would you revisit that as far as putting the parking lots in the back and the buildings on the street? And he said, absolutely.
Yeah.
To which I offered an analogy that he thought was a good one. His secretary actually asked that I write it down and relay it to you people. I didn't know if it was that good, but the analogy was that you're allowed in an area to keep animals, and animals must be leashed when they are out. So you apply for a permit to keep a tiger, and you go to the board and they look at it and they say, well, our regulations require it be leashed. Then you go to a different board, and that board says, absolutely not. That animal must be caged. And the applicant comes back and says, Well, there's no problems. They're requiring a cage. But that's not the issue. They don't want a
Usually it's
cage.
tiger.
They don't want a cage. They want a dog. And I believe that's the situation here. They don't want parking in the front. They want a smaller project.
That would certainly, yes.
Who is they?
But
The applicant or
Conservation
conservation?
Commission.
I was gonna
Okay.
say.
Their issue is the project. If you look,
Yeah.
and I was trying to be quick, but if you look at the two plans, one of them, the one I drew, one that is their most recent plan, if you look, there's an issue that they have right now
Yeah.
that they've got a disagreement. You're not allowed to have a detention basin within 50 feet of a wetland. The underground infiltration is within 50 feet. Conservation's saying, no, you can't have that. The applicant is saying, you're wrong, it's not a detention basin because it's underground. They're barking up the wrong tree, but that's one issue. The other issue, and I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but if you stand, it's easy to look at plans when they're flat. But if you stand on 140 and the parking lot is in front of you, you realize it's this high.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. From the street, the driveway goes up. I mean, it almost looks like waves of water coming down at the
Yeah,
contour
you can see
lines on the
you can see
driveways.
contours, but yeah.
It's pretty steep, and that parking lot's 5 feet in the air. In the back, if you're standing in the wetlands, it goes up 9 feet.
Yeah.
This is scorched earth stuff.
It's, I would summarize it, I think, the way that I try to summarize a lot of things. We can provide guidance and opinions to the applicant. Ultimately, what they present to us is what we rule on.
Correct. Correct.
So,
And
and we've talked to them, and we had a discussion with them, at least in terms of comments that we shared with them directly.
Mhm.
One of the criteria for a special permit is it sufficiently, I forget the exact wording, but compared to if we denied the permit.
Correct.
And their position essentially, when they came back and presented, was, this is the project we're prepared to present. If this permit is denied, then we will evaluate other things that we can do by right, like top of the shop.
Correct.
So that's
Correct.
their answer to that. Their answer is, this is our project, or whatever we see in the future is our project.
And that's consistent
And
with...
if you don't, and if you choose to deny it, this would be our path forward. And all we can do is, at that point, rule on what they have.
And that's what I'm asking you to do tonight. Please, just end the public hearing and rule on it.
Yeah.
I
Speaking
can't
for
see...
myself, I would be hesitant to do that when they are in the middle of revising a plan set.
Okay, I guess that would bring up a different point. How far can you revise a special permit application before it fails the test of a public hearing?
Is this the same special permit?
Is it the same special permit?
I think that if this moved away from a multifamily development of this similar size and scope, then that would be where it would break from that.
And then my other question would be,
Because they're all individual
what are the
permits,
possibility
so-
of it being approved at a density greater than 12 units?
Yeah, I can't speak to that at this point because we haven't.
Correct.
seen
Okay.
any, so.
Okay. I think we've heard each other and
Okay,
we're good?
okay,
Okay. Thank you, sir.
okay. Any further comments or questions on 0 Mansfield Avenue? So the applicant has requested a continuance, as well as to withdraw 2 of the applications. We can take any action we choose.
Motion to continue. Here we go. Special permit 19928, 19935, 20107, and site plan 20100, 20103, and 20106. The intent will vote on the request to withdraw at that meeting.
Okay. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Seconded.
Okay. So again, the motion is to continue all of the items with the intention to address the withdrawal at a future date. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Okay. Hearing no further discussion, I'll go through the roll, starting with the members here in person, and going through remotely. So Wayne, I'll start with you.
No.
So no on the continuance?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Laura?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. So we are continued until February the 6th. Okay. Next item. Thank you, sir.
Should I leave these in case other members want to?
Sure.
Okay. Not trying to force them on you.
It's okay. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is 300 South Washington Street. Again, they are requesting a continuance to our next meeting on January the 9th.
Motion to continue special permit 20381 until January 9th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue. Any further discussion? Okay. Wayne?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. And next item is SP 20475, 0 Rear Eddy Street. This applicant is also seeking continuance to the 9th. I would just call to everybody's attention, there was some correspondence from town council and other council in the Dropbox related to the issue of frontage that we had discussed in a previous session. I would encourage you to just read through that, and if we have any questions, please ask them through Brian so we can move forward with that. And I would look for a motion on a continuance or any other action.
Motion to continue special permit 20475 until January 9th, 2024.
Second.
Thank you, Laura, for the motion and Wayne for the second. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Okay. Hearing none. Wayne?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Sorry, I went out of order on you. Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Okay. Next item on our agenda is site plan review 20881 and special permit SP-1 for 237 East Main Street. This is Condon Capital Partners presenting continuance from November the 14th. And they are looking to construct a 32,420 square foot warehouse / industrial space. So I know we have people from the applicant here in person and I believe remotely as well. So I'll ask whoever would like to come up virtually or in person to just give a quick update. And again, this was, we discussed this a month ago and we decided that we needed a special permit in addition to the site plan for this project.
Correct.
Sir?
Good. Jeff O'Neill with Condine Capital Partners on behalf of Leonard Street B1 owner, which is the owner of the land and the applicant. Brandon Carr from DePret Engineering is online, so our civil engineer. He can run quickly through a quick snapshot of the plans. Since the time frame of the last meeting, we also went through conservation and received approval with the order of conditions to go ahead on what was presented. So I think, Brandon, you can run through the set of plans.
Yes, good evening, Brandon Carr with DePret Engineering. So we were here back in November, we presented the project, and it was identified that we needed a special permit for a building over 10,000 square feet. So since the last meeting, we applied for that permit, did another round of abutters notices, did another round of advertising, and basically just added that application to the package. The plans haven't changed since the last time you saw them. So as I covered last time, 32,420 square foot building in the center of the site here. Loading in the back, trash in the back, there's a small pond in the back on the southern side towards the wetland, and then there's a parking lot in the front up towards Leonard Street and Route 123. But I was going to go through it in detail since we did that at the last meeting, but I guess we're just here if there's any comments or questions that have come up to the board's mind since the last meeting. But it was really just to get that special permit filed and do the proper notice.
Thank you. Does any members of the boards have any additional questions or comments related to the site plan? Well, I give everybody a chance to come off mute. Brandon, were there any changes from conservation related to the order of conditions that they provided, or was everything, nothing changed in that respect?
No changes to the plan, no changes to the design. There was a couple, they did a peer review, there were a couple minor modifications we made, but those were before we came for the first time to the planning board, so nothing's changed since then. The order conditions that was issued was pretty standard. No special conditions really or anything like that.
Yeah. They always find a HydroCAD calculation or something that needs to be corrected in the peer review.
There's a couple small things, so nothing really even on the plans really changed. It was all on the calcs.
Okay. So again, I'll ask if members of the board have any additional questions for the applicant at this time. And I'll also just do a quick open question if there's anybody joining the meeting remotely from the public or here in person who'd like to make comments or questions related to this application. Please either raise your hand in person or virtually. Okay. Not getting a whole lot of questions from members of the public at this point. I'll turn to the applicant. Do you have anything else that you want to share or feel needs to be shared prior to a potential motion to close the public hearing?
Nothing of major, but it's what the market is demanding, what's in essence designed with the roadway system that we have here. So we have reciprocal easement agreement already established. We have a maintenance agreement. Operations with buildings 4 and 5 or 15 and 19, which is right next door. Phase 2 is a complete base building, so we're base building with Yale Appliances done. Building 12 is done, which is the main shell. We think that we have a tenant that's committed to that building, so things are moving along great at Blue Star. So this will be our next implementation of this building, albeit 32,000 square feet. It's not compared in size to the other 5 that are there.
Okay. Any additional questions from the board or any motions anybody would like to take? And Jim, Alan, and Steve, I'm gonna put you on the metaphorical spot just because I can't quite get the same eye contact as I would in person, but just to make sure that if you have any questions, I'm giving you a chance to ask them. Steve, I can't hear you. I'm not sure. I see you're unmuted, but I don't hear you right now, Steve. Steve, I don't hear you. I'm not hearing you at all, Steve. Do you want to try unmuting again and seeing if that
See if Alan or, we're hearing Alan or Jim. Maybe it's on our end.
I'm seeing?
It's jumping in and out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's choppy here for me as well.
Okay. Steve, do you want to try unmuting again?
Okay, yeah, sure.
I hear you now. Perfect.
My question was, if this plan was denied, is there an alternative plan, like a plan 2?
As of right now, there is no plan 2. So proceeding forward with the industrial, which matches the identical of the other 5 buildings that are in the park.
This itself could be, in some ways, could be construed as a Plan 2 based on the original proposal of retail.
Correct. And with the change of use to the industrial, although it's allowed by right in the zoning that's there, lot less impacts, traffic flow, everything else that's going to be there. The retail, when it was originally designed, was the highest impact we had for traffic on all of that corridor that was there, more so than the 5 other buildings fully occupied, including drive-through.
Can I ask how many, when fully occupied, approximately how many tenants will be going through that industrial park every day? Number of people?
So employees, you mean?
Yes.
I don't have that exact figure, but when we're done, full development, we also have to do a study for MassDOT for 5 years, analyzing the traffic. That was part of the MEPR approval that was there, but
I'm
we
more
took,
concerned about where are these people getting their coffee and their lunch and their haircut, those types of things. How are you supporting the infrastructure that you've built?
Coffee's probably the bad example because it's
A
Dunkin' right
Dunkin'
across the
right
street.
there,
but-
yeah.
well, every.
But you put in a
this-
Starbucks and I don't think the town is gonna be too upset about that.
Well, Starbucks was approached and they didn't want to locate to the site. They were a first target that was trying to go there for the retail. So as to each of the tenants have their own break room that's there inside the facilities that's been constructed in every one of those office pods that's all the way throughout.
Are they cafeterias, full
They're
service?
not full-service cafeterias. They are break rooms where they bring their own food in for the daily shifts. That's going to be there.
But we all can all agree that the sales tax from people purchasing lunches at a retail establishment in this town is not a bad thing.
No, certainly. And that's,
We haven't got to the lunch places anyway.
No.
Amazon's closing, it's closed.
yeah, there's, I know there was a pizza shop in the plaza right across the street. I'm not sure what else was there, or is there.
Where Kelly's, that
Yeah,
one?
next
No.
to Kelly's is Fat Cousins.
Oh, you're thinking down at, yeah,
No, there was one in that plaza.
yeah, Mike's Pizza.
Yeah.
No, not Mike's,
There was Kitchen's Corner too.
yeah.
I know I ate pizza there once.
It's Bar Pizza, yeah.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it.
Yeah, so, yeah, no, I understand, there was originally retail proposed to the site as this retail will help service all the people that are going to the industrial spaces.
And the community.
And and the community around it, and that aspect of it did not develop with this plan. this is the plan that the applicant is presenting,
I understand.
so.
Could we also just clarify, retail wasn't proposed, it was a concept plan at town meeting, correct? It was never a proposal. It was, this could possibly house retail.
It was proposed as
It was-
retail.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the definition of proposed, because we went through previous iterations of the planning board went through 18 revisions of traffic plans and studies based on it being retail, and we looked at layouts for the common driveway based on it being retail, and a whole
I
bunch
guess
of
my
other
point is
stuff,
there's
so,
absolutely nothing holding them to any of those plans,
correct,
that we could tie to any of those plans that we would have in our back pocket that we could use.
correct.
This is kind of what I'm getting at.
Correct. Now, it was discussed for the subdivision, it was discussed for the common driveway and the layout of everything, and the traffic, and the signaling, and the expansion of the roadway, and everything else. But in terms of a specific proposal for this site, no, the planning board has not looked at any specific buildings.
My additional point would be anytime anything is rezoned, you have to look at every single use that could possibly go there, not just the one that's being proposed, talked about. It can be anything.
Yes,
It shouldn't be hung up on until it's in front of us.
yes. And that was part of what we looked at that was part of the discussion around the phase 2 with the Yale Appliance Building and those properties. We had similar discussions as well.
I remember.
Okay. So again, the applicant doesn't have anything in their presentation this evening that they need to go over. If we have questions for them, or we need clarification on them, any points, we should do so. Otherwise, we'd be looking for a motion to take action on this in terms of closing the public hearing, continuing to another date, etc.
Would you like the motions to close the public hearing for the site plan review and the special permit separate or together?
I'm fine with them together.
Motion to close public hearing for SPR 20881. Is it SP-1? Did I read that correctly?
Yes. Okay.
Second.
We have a motion to close the public hearing and a second from Wayne. Is there any first discussion on the motion to close the public hearing? Okay. And is there any further motion or action to be taken? I will add that we do have, Eric is not part of the meeting this evening, so we are one member short. So are we looking, do we have a motion to continue? Do we have a? Oh, I
Motion
need to take
close.
action on the motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah.
I apologize, I kept talking. Okay, so a motion to close the public hearing. Is there any further discussion before I get sidetracked again? Okay. Wayne?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Okay, and I will vote yes to close the public hearing. And now I'll restate again, if we would like to look to continue to a future session for a decision, or if we would like to take a vote now, that is entirely up to the board. Just restating that Eric is not available for this evening's meeting, so this is a special permit, so we would need 5 votes in approval to approve.
Comfortable moving forward with the vote tonight.
Is that a motion or a feeling?
Just stating, I think you were looking for what, I can make the motion. Make a motion to approve special permit. My screen is froze.
The SP-1.
SP-1 for 237 East Main Street. Make a motion to approve special permit.
Okay.
Seconded.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion to approve the special permit SP-1? Okay. I will go through the roll here. Wayne?
Yes.
Laura?
No.
Alan?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
No.
And I will vote yes. That is 4-2. So that does not constitute approval for a special permit. Okay.
Do we
With the
vote on
special permit-
Site plan then?
With the special permit denied, I'm not sure if there's a specific action that we should take related to the site plan. Since without the special permit, the site plan isn't valid. If somebody would like to make a motion to the site plan, they can, otherwise I'm not sure if it,
I'll make a motion to approve SPR 20881.
Seconded.
we have a motion to approve the site plan. Again, are we approving this with standard conditions, with any other conditions? That's where we,
I don't have any notes on any other conditions that we talked about, so I'll go with standard conditions.
okay. And Laura, does your second still stand?
Yes.
Okay. So again, this is a motion to approve the site plan with standard conditions. Any further discussion? Okay. Wayne?
Yes.
Laura?
No.
Alan?
Yes.
Steve?
No.
Jim?
Yes.
And I would vote yes as well. Okay. So we'll move through the decision process and get that filed to you. And there are next steps. Obviously, you can coordinate with Brian. In the future.
Okay. Thank you. Look at all of this.
Okay. The final item on our agenda this evening is 21 Samoset Street. I'm not sure exactly how I should be pronouncing that.
That's how I thought.
Yeah, Samoset's.
Okay, so I picked the right emphasis. So this is the discussion item. So I will, Brian, did you want to give a quick introduction? I see somebody coming up to the podium here, just in terms of a summary for what you shared in the message.
So, I don't know if Dana would be up to it, or, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, since I'm not the one directly in it, it was more Nate. So, Dana had started paving, and there was discussions with the building inspector as to if it was allowed, or is that?
No, that's not what I understand. No.
Okay, so
You want me to just give a quick
If you can,
synopsis?
yeah.
Okay.
Just introduce yourself. to
Sure,
everyone.
sure. My name is Dana Jr. I own 21 Samoset Street. It's an 8,900 square foot residential lot of record. So it's a vacant lot. It has existing frontage along Samoset Street. This lot has frontage along 3 streets: Samoset Street, Bignell Street, and Hope Street. Samoset Street is a constructed street, and that street is recognized by the building inspector as a constructed street and construction. And so, in other words, I have constructed frontage along that street of about 40 feet, okay? In order to get a building permit on a residential lot of record, such as this, you need to have at least 5,000 square feet of land, which I do, I have 8,900, and you need at least 50 feet of frontage along an existing street. I have 40 feet along that street, 140 along Bignell, and about 108 along Hope. So in my view, I qualify for a building permit. However, the building inspector says, no, you need 50 feet of constructed frontage, of frontage on a constructed street. So Samoset Street is constructed, but I only have 40 feet of frontage along that one street. So I said, well, I can construct or pave up Bignell Street from Samoset up Bignell. Originally, and this has gone through like 4 or 5 building inspectors now. I've been doing this for 7 years. All right, so the story kind of keeps on changing, but where I'm at now is I've constructed or paved 50 feet of Bignell Street. So I asked him, I said, I've done that, and this is all in a floodplain, so I got permission from Conservation to do that and to build a house from Conservation already. So I went to him and I said, could you please issue the building permit? And he said, well, what permission did you get in order to build the 50 feet of frontage or 50 feet of Bignell Street? And I said, I have the right under Mass General laws as an owner along a private way that I can improve the street so long as I don't obstruct someone else from using that who may also have frontage along that street further down. So that's what I did. He goes, okay, let me check with town council. Town council came back and suggested that I come here in order to, I guess, kind of bless the 50 feet of construction that I did along Bignell Street in order so that it can be recognized by the building inspector in order to issue a building permit. Does that make sense?
As convoluted as it was, it made sense to me.
Okay, all right. I hope.
At no fault of your own.
All right, so hopefully my explanation is kind of going round and round. So in any case, what I'm looking for is a positive street determination just on that 50 feet of Bignell Street in order so that the building inspector can issue the building permit for a 3-bedroom house. That's what I'm looking for tonight.
Okay.
I think I've submitted to you an as-built plan showing the pavement. I don't know if I submitted any pictures to you. Did anyone go out and see it at all? No one's ever seen it, probably?
No, I pulled up the aerial, but it's an older.
Right, yeah, and it would have been covered by trees and all as well.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the as-built on the screen. Not the as-built of the house. It's a vacant lot right now. That's a proposed footprint for that. But you can see that Samoset Street, Bignell Street, and Hope Street border 3 of the 4 sides of this particular lot. Again, Samoset Street is existing and paved, and there are other houses on each side of my lot, even further down. It's a dead-end street, and there's water and sewer within that street layout. So again, if I had 50 feet of frontage instead of 40 there, I wouldn't be before you right now.
You would have done it and have been done with it a long time ago.
Right, I would have, yeah, the house would have been already done and lived in probably at this point. in any case, so what I've done is I paved or I constructed 50 feet of Big Nell Street. Now, normally what happens is there's a tract of land and someone would come to you for a Form C and say, I'd like to build this street to provide frontage for all these lots, and I'm going to subdivide this land into all these lots. The reason I'm not doing a Form C is because I have an existing lot. I'm not making any new property lines because this is an existing grandfathered lot along a street that's already on a map, already at the registry of deeds. So all I want to do is improve 50 feet of it, which is what I did.
Okay.
Other towns have a street improvement policy, and it gives you kind of a, pardon the pun, but a roadmap to say, look, if you build the street this way, an existing right-of-way, and you improve it this way, we will recognize your frontage. I haven't seen that in this town. And many towns don't have them. Only a few towns do. I come from a town, Marshfield, and I've done a lot of this there. But they have a whole procedure of doing this. You just follow what they do, and then they say, okay, here you go. But we don't have that here. So that's why it's a bit of a hodgepodge here. It's taken me 7 years to get to this point for here.
Okay.
So that's really what I'm asking for, is a positive street determination for that 50 feet of Big Nell Street.
Okay.
In lieu of that, if that's not okay, can you please give me direction as to what would be okay?
Okay. Obviously, you've been talking with the building inspector about this.
Yes.
Has the highway department seen the road at all, or no?
They have not seen it. I have called them, and the first question they asked me, is this a public road or a private road? And I said, it's a private road. They go, then stop calling us. And it was the end of them. I have been to the ZBA over the years, and it was suggested at one point, well, ask for a variance. I didn't really agree with it, but I went down that path as well, and they said, you really shouldn't be before us. We don't know what to do with you.
You told me to be here. That's why I'm here.
So,
yes.
So then I went back to the building inspector again. He goes, I don't know what to tell you. You need 50 feet of constructed frontage. I said, what is constructed frontage to you? How wide? How thick? What do you want? He goes, it's not up to me.
We have nothing in our bylaw that's, I feel like when we get site plans, they're all talking about, it's so many feet across, there's a certain grade, there are angles of the curb cuts. Where is that coming from?
I think those would be if it was a subdivision, then the subdivision design standards would be
Okay.
one source of truth for that.
Single lot does not make a subdivision?
Yep.
one
Plus
of
the
the
fact that the lot is actually existing and isn't being subdivided at all.
Right.
So that would kind of go against the word subdivision, yeah.
What about no.
No. She's currently going through all of the things
I
that you've
know.
gone through for.
Trust me.
Sorry.
No, ask
I'm
away.
just catching up.
Ask
Yeah.
away because
Well,
I've
I'm
been
just
through.
thinking even in like the A&R, does it give us any guidance as to what is sufficient width grade?
The A&R would say it needs to have access and frontage. And it's just a lot.
Right,
Doesn't
but it also
talk about-
has to be an adequate way, and an adequate way would imply
Yeah.
correct width and grade, and we're really flying blind?
If I could explain the logic of what I did and why I did it that way, is the pavement is 14 feet wide that I did, okay? The right-of-way on Samoset is, I believe, 40 feet wide, and its pavement is only 14 feet wide, okay? The right-of-way along Big Nell Street is only 20 feet wide. Leaving some room along the shoulder, I figured I would match the width of the pavement leading up to Big Nell at 14 feet. That's why I did it 14 feet wide, okay? There's no drainage, no underground drainage in the area as far as catch basins, and it's low-lying, it's floodplain, so it's really state of Maine type of drainage where it just rolls, sheet flows off the side of the road, okay? So what I did was super elevate this 50 feet of pavement towards my lot. So any drainage that comes off of the roadway will come onto my lot instead of shedding onto a neighbor's lot or town land or anything like that. So I'm taking responsibility for any drainage like that. So that's how I came up with the width of the pavement and the drainage procedure for it as far as sheet flow onto my lot. The other thing is it's a very flat area, and one of the things that conservation required, being in the floodplain, it's not near wetlands, it's just in the floodplain. What they said is anything you do has to stay at grade. You can't mound it up and you can't make it deeper. So I excavated X amount, and then I filled X amount and paved over that. So it's at the same grade that it was before.
Okay.
So those are the three things that I really paid attention to in doing this and why I did it that way.
Okay. Steve, I see you have your virtual hand raised. I'll go to you first, and I see Alan, you have yours as well. So Steve, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, well, as I see it, this is a really old neighborhood, and this road was designed before we had our standards for the subdivision. These lots that are in there should all have their frontage recognized. Like, I don't think we should only recognize 50 feet of his frontage. We should recognize the entirety of Bignell Street and Hope Street frontage, if those are already pre-described roads. The lots that are connecting to it are town-owned and at Land Preservation Society, so they're not really gonna develop, or it'll just provide some access for it. But I would say we should support, if we can, the entirety of the road, and not just end with him. If he wants to build the first 50 feet, I say we let him do it. But the other thing would be, I'm not sure why it goes off of the road space into his property as opposed to following the path of the road. But other than that, I guess the standard should be whatever the town says that the standard should be for the road.
Yeah.
I think all of it should be acceptable. Yeah.
Good.
That was good. I see the applicant looking to answer your question about the.
Why it goes off a little bit. So there's two big pine trees. They show on the as-built actually. If you look closely, there's two big pine trees. So one of them is at the beginning of where I paved, and I think I can kind of get around that. But there was another one towards the 50-foot end on the left side that pushed the pavement over onto my lot a little bit. Now I had the option of cutting that tree and excavating the stump and getting rid of that and put it where it's got to go. Well, there's telephone poles down Bignell Street, and apparently there was a sagging wire or something at some point. So someone, I don't know who did it, but it's been there for as long as I've had it. They tied the wire with a rope up to this particular tree. So I figured, you know what? I'm not going on to someone else's land. I'm going on to my own. So I went right next to the tree. That's why I pushed it over a little bit.
Okay.
Could I ask you, if that tree is wired up, do you consider that tree a hazard for your house? It's pretty close by your house.
Well, I wouldn't consider it a hazard. Obviously, I left it in order to kind of minimize what I was doing and what kind of impact I was doing and all that. So that was my thought process at the time. So,
Yeah.
and meanwhile, we just had that super storm yesterday, and I just drove by it on my way here, and there's branches down, but everything's fine. So
Yeah.
that's why I left the tree.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Alan, did you have additional questions that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I guess my first question, did town council see this plan?
Yes, this is the plan that I submitted to the building inspector. And then he, as he told me, he submitted it to town council in order to get their opinion. And I think I never saw the opinion from town council. I just saw the building inspector's email back to me that I think you were CC'd on.
Right, this is the email
That's it? Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So, town council saw the documents and told them to come to us to do this, basically, if we feel
It's
it's
just-
appropriate.
This is, for lack of a better term, so screwed up.
Yes.
I do it. And I just kind of now picking up on this is already built. You already paved this.
Right,
Paved, yes. Built the house, no.
correct.
Correct. I don't have a problem with it. It seems, I get your philosophy, I get what you're trying to do. It's just, I can't get past the fact that the street that you're using as frontage is on your own property and not on, it just doesn't seem right. That's, I don't know.
Right.
There's like five things that leave a bad taste in my mouth for some reason, yeah.
Yeah. In theory, if the road were to be continued at a later date, they would probably need to cut down that tree and use the right-of-way. But right now, the only impacted person would be the applicant.
Essentially, it's gonna act like a driveway almost,
Yeah.
because it stops and that's the end of it, but.
Yeah.
That was gonna be my second, third, whatever question. That's gonna be your driveway? That's how you're gonna access the house?
Well, I can, if it's okay, if the board had a problem with it, I can put a driveway onto my lot, but I don't know why paving more at this point, given the situation, would be better or not. I don't know, it's up to you. I can do whatever.
I mean, it's
I can do either way.
a private way, so you can do what in private. Maybe I'm speaking out of my rear end here, but I'd say if it's a private way, you can do whatever you want on it. And especially when it's going to nowhere, there's not going to be a whole lot of competition for use in it. My long term, if Big Nell was ever developed, the question I would have would be whether you're setting yourself up for that sliver of your lot to be like adverse possession type of thing,
Right.
where, well, we're just going to continue the path of the roadway as it is, and
Right, and then
then you're going to be not happy with that.
right.
But
I mean,
that's a future question that,
Right, yeah. I mean, I could do an easement on that portion. I could cut the tree and
yeah.
do that. I basically, like I said, either I'm looking for you guys are okay with it, but if you're not okay with it, tell me what you would be okay with. For instance, if you said, cut the tree, straighten it out, I'm hoping that if you say, do these things, 1, 2, 3, then we can issue a positive street determination just on that 50 feet, or all of it. I mean, whatever you deem correct.
The construction frontage portion goes to the building inspector and probably the bylaws, so I'm not sure if we can. I appreciate the thought, Steve, especially with, I don't know if we can do that, but yeah. Steve, you have your virtual hand raised. Were you looking to ask something further?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, who owns Big Nell Street right now? Is it a town owned?
It's
road?
it's a private way open to the public, which means landowners who have frontage on that street technically own to the center of the street.
Okay.
But it's
so
open to
the landowners right now are the town of Norton and the Land Preservation Society for most of that road, and him.
Right.
I would say that as long as he follows the road road, we should recognize his frontage completely. I don't think it should go into his yard. I think that's gonna lead to a further eminent domain, easement type of issue, a redirection of where the road is supposed to go. And we have an opportunity right now to actually correct something that's slightly incorrect.
Okay.
I kind of agree.
Yeah.
So would it be fair, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm trying to,
I have a question.
Yes, Laura?
So this went to conservation. Did they get a stormwater report?
I don't know if there was I don't know if this would meet the size criteria for a stormwater. I think you need to disturb more than an acre.
Okay, here's my
Right.
concern. He tells us that it's been graded to do one thing. We approve it. It doesn't. All of a sudden, 22 Samoset is inundated.
right,
They're gonna come back and sue us for approving that road.
right.
No?
There's spot grades on it, I don't know if you can read them, they're small, but it shows that it's super elevated to my lot, as well as there's a note on there. It's-
Right, but without somebody running
Yeah.
without an expert running a stormwater report to say
Mhm.
this will not result in any water on anybody else's property above what is already there,
Mhm.
we have nothing to go by, other than your word.
Right, I understand.
And that's a liability to us.
What I was gonna suggest, potentially, is you said you talked to Highway and they kinda didn't feel like it was in their purview. Just
It was shorter than
if they,
that.
well, if we get to a point and we're comfortable with it, we say, we'll give you this is hypothetical, we figure out 3 other things. But conditional approval, if Highway says the paving that you've done looks good and it should grade to your line.
Right,
Because they're grading highways all day long.
right,
And if I'm gonna look at who tells me if the road was done, if paving was done right, they're probably the people I'm gonna call.
right,
If the building inspector or us asks them to take a look at it, maybe it saves you from a conversation that goes longer than 10 seconds.
right, yeah. That would be my only problem, because, again, I've kind of been told, or try this and try that, I'm like, they won't
Yeah.
do it, you know?
Yeah, we're
But-
not asking them to approve it as this is a full-fledged road.
Right,
just-
but what do you think of, give your opinion on it, or something, I guess.
The
you know?
applicant
Did he
says-
do a good job
Yeah.
paving it, or did he use sidewalk chalk?
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, are the materials sufficient? Does it grade correctly?
Yeah.
Right.
Back of the napkin, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks all right.
Right.
Just somebody else other than us determining the grade of this road and the construction of it is,
Yeah.
Understood, yeah.
The,
I think that's reasonable, it's
Yeah. And
it's fine.
to a point, I agree with the comments that Steve made about if you're putting the road onto your property, you're asking for that to no longer be your property if it moves forward.
Right, right.
And the power line tied to a tree just gives me all sorts of, like, that's not how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, yeah,
That's-
no, I get it, I
I'm
get it.
just-
So if I was able to
I don't,
figure out the power line situation, whatever that is, get rid of the tree, get rid of the stump, essentially, add to the pavement to make it go straight down the
to
road.
the left, yeah.
Right, add to the left side. The right side, I wouldn't think I would have to cut it out necessarily,
It'll
but I can,
it'll figure itself out over time.
yeah, that between that and I can incorporate it into a driveway even, it's a parking area that's on my lot. But if I was to add to it's the left side as you're going down, so that the left side is in the right direction. And I'd just have to get rid of, I think, just that one tree.
Yeah, I'm not sure which,
Doesn't that other tree in the middle of the road create a hazard?
that's the one that he would take out.
No, I know, he's talking about
You
this one.
mean at the beginning of the
But
road?
this other one that's right in the triangle between Samoset and.
But it's not paved, so it's just,
That one is so close to Samoset, I think that one can stay because the pavement goes right by it.
Yeah,
Right here. Right here.
yeah, so,
So essentially, I can leave that and just make this go this way through this tree.
you're swinging it down.
Right.
Looking at the map,
This
basically.
way,
Yeah.
Right.
Alan, I see your hand up again.
Yeah, it just seems like it's a dangerous precedent to set that. This seems like there needs to be more work involved. This seems too easy that someone can just throw down pavement. And it seems like a dangerous precedent to set going forward. I don't know, I'm definitely not comfortable with it as it lay. Definitely the plan needs to be redone, in my opinion, as we just talked about. And I'm right on board with what Laura's saying also. I think we need some type of, not peer review, but we need some type of engineering, a better plan, more developed plan.
Okay.
Okay. So if we're, excuse me, I got something in my throat for a second. So if we're giving the applicant guidance here, our guidance is we have issues with the road not following the right of way and going onto your land from a that's gonna come back and bite you later perspective. And that creates the tree and the power line issue.
I think I can deal with that at this point. I mean, again, here I am 7 years later, I'm looking to
Yeah.
go forward and be done.
And then in terms of recognizing the constructed frontage, what type of standard are people looking for? Is the suggestion that I made that the building inspector work with highway to evaluate the road itself? Or are we looking for something that is done by a civil engineer or whatever engineer type person that would present something like this?
Yeah, I was leaning more towards, and I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I did not put my hair down. That was just a messenger rule. Your OCD wasn't kicking in there. Even just this engineering firm putting a little bit more detail into the plan. Like any other project, you can't, if we were doing this from new, what's the standard? You cannot add more runoff to the site that's running off now. You can explain it better than I can.
Yeah.
I guess.
But this doesn't meet the size standards for stormwater, so stormwater only kicks in if you disturb an acre.
I get that.
Yeah.
But what if this is all pitched towards somebody's house, or this is somehow, however it happens, and obviously it's rained, it's built, I'm not saying it is happening, how do we know? How do we CYA that this isn't causing a problem?
Under, this might help a little bit, I don't know, under note number 6, right on the plan, on that same plan, it's small what I have, but note number 6 says, newly paved road consists of a 1.5 inch top course, a 2-inch base course, and a 12-inch select compacted gravel base, which I believe is as good or as you need for the streets for a subdivision. Gravel base over originally compacted soil. So it's super elevated toward number 21 Samoset Street. I understand you would need more detail, so I can, maybe a cross-section that depicts all that, rather than just a note, as well as, like I said, there's spot elevations on the edges of the pavement that you can see it's super elevated towards the lot. So hopefully those
I saw the note, it's also, how do we know? Yes, we see it on the plan. If you're building a subdivision, you're building a road, you have
Yeah.
someone reviewing it, you have someone
Yeah.
inspecting it as it goes. No one saw you do this, is what I'm saying, kind of also. So
Right.
how do we know it is what we're saying? Because we
Right.
have no, other than showing on the plan and the engineer signed off the plan, this
Right.
engineer hasn't signed off on how it's built. Is this, I don't know, does it say somewhere, does it say as-built on this plan somewhere? I don't have the whole thing in front of me, I can't pull it up.
Yes, it
Yes, it
does.
does.
It's an as-built plot plan, and it is signed and stamped by a surveyor. Yeah.
I guess I would have been more comfortable with it also if it wasn't already built, if you know what I'm saying. It would have
Right,
been easier to swallow.
right.
Other than those, I guess, other than for me now, getting the road straightened out, getting the road off your property, I think that's the direction I'd be heading.
Okay. So, so we would be looking, so we've provided the applicant, Mr. Junior, some guidance. Are we comfortable making a motion to give a conditional approval to this constructed frontage? Or do we need to see something else first?
I would
And I'll
think,
take a motion either way. Whether we'd like Mr. Junior to address the tree and the roadway layout, or we can give a conditional, we're gonna summarize what we said and send it to the building commissioner, and if you follow what we said, then we've already said that we're good with it. So, I'm at the board's mercy as to what we want to do.
I'd be fine
I'm
with that.
comfortable. Yeah, as long as it goes through approval of people that know more about building roads than me. But I think it'd be really great to fix a problem that exists in the town already that wasn't caused by us.
Okay?
would it be, may I? Would it be fair to say if you were to describe the specifications that you're looking for in this particular project, i.e., show that it's the drainage won't impact any neighboring properties. In other words, that could be a statement along with a cross section with the plan from an engineer saying, you know, based on my review of the site and the plan, there will be no adverse drainage onto abutting properties. Something like that. So that would address the drainage concern, and then say as long as the pavement is maybe 14 feet wide, based on that would be, so that way we have concrete numbers that say, give me an engineer's letter, make sure it's 14 feet wide, make sure it's constructed with, as this note says, if you're concerned about that, 1.5 inches top course, 2.5 base course, and at least 8 inches of select compacted gravel on top of a compacted base. That's what all this says already, right? So that way we kind of have a parameter of if you do this, this, and this, and I can measure the pavement, maybe you'd want to come out, or Brian would come out when I'm fixing the pavement, and he can see it. I don't know if you want to do that. I'm a little bit skeptical of like going a highway or going to other places, because what I got before was, hey, this is not our problem. We got other stuff to do. Unless it's, you know what I mean?
I
Because then if I can't get him to do it, I'm nowhere again.
Perhaps we could entail the services of Brian to wrangle somebody from highway to look at it.
I think if he's
If it's
if he's
coming
looking
from
to
you.
get an engineer's statement, I think that accomplishes the same purpose.
Okay,
So I'm viewing that as an or.
okay. So the engineer would speak to the drainage and the construction?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm viewing that as the checklist is what I think you're getting for here. Is I want
Right,
I
basically,
want clear instructions of what you want me to do.
that would be great. I think that would be good for me and good for you to say he did these 4 things or whatever it is. And they can be checked off, they can be measured, and they can be
Yeah.
crossed off the list to say, that's what we asked for, that's what he did.
Yeah. So I think 1 was aligning the paving to the right of way of the road, and 2 is if you have a stamped engineer statement like you described, I
Yep.
think that covers it. Other than that, if that's not something that you
I'm sure I
are
can.
able or want to get in some way, then it would have to be a administrative review by building inspector and or highway, saying, speaking to the roadway and the design of the drainage.
If it's okay, if you'll accept it, I'd rather hire an engineer to write a letter.
That's fine. I'm just,
You know, just because I'm skeptical about the other departments.
then I will
Attention.
eliminate that from your choices then.
Okay. So
Okay.
align it, a stamped engineering statement as far as the drainage goes.
Yeah.
Do you want to say 14 feet wide pavement?
I think matching the existing width of Samoset works for me. I don't see a need to require you to do 25-foot wide or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Just the materials and construction adequacy.
Yeah.
So
Which
it
he's
was-
already got on the
Yeah,
plan already.
right,
But-
but can somebody actually look at it and say,
That's
yeah,
what-
that was built correctly?
You're going to be able to. Someone's going to be able to see it because I'm going to have to
Yep,
Do more of it.
do more.
yep.
Yeah.
Get rid of the tree and do more. So
Yeah.
materials and construction adequacy.
And drainage, yeah.
In fact, that could probably be part of the engineer's statement, the cover letter.
Yes.
Good with that?
Alan, is there anything else that you'd want to see with this? Or does that pretty much cover it?
My only other thing that just popped into my head, anytime we're building roads, we always ask fire department approval. Do they have adequate access?
My assumption is they would park on Samoset anyway.
I don't know, I'm just always more comfortable when the fire department says it's good, but that's just me.
Yeah. I don't think that, I think it would be tough to turn around in that little bit of 50 feet with a big ladder truck or something. I assume that if there was an issue with the property, they would park on Samoset, which is essentially a dead end at this point. And
Can't get any deader.
they might pull into the 50 feet of frontage and then back right out. Yeah.
Again, there are also houses further down
Yeah.
on both sides of Samoset, and it dead ends right there too. There's no turnaround or nothing.
Yeah.
Just
Steve, is there anything that you wanted to add?
No, I agree with the fire approval also about their access, but if anything, this will probably give them a turnaround on an already pretty tight road. The other thing I want to say is that I want to make sure that he makes his driveway space off of this road, not as part of this road. And that's part of the important thing about moving it off of his lot.
okay. Okay.
Okay.
So it's either cut it off, or incorporate it into a parking area on my lot specifically. I think.
Yeah, whichever one qualifies as a driveway that would be against a road, but not using the road itself as your parking space.
Okay.
Okay. I think that just falls under the first kind of, yeah. So I'll say driveway not on road. Okay. Is there anything further on this? And is this something where we are comfortable giving a conditional approval, or would we ask that Mr. Junior come back when we have those two items done and a plan for number 3?
If we had a town planner, this is something generally we would dump on the town planner, but if we could dump it on Brian and Mr. Iafredi, I would definitely be comfortable with that.
So we're comfortable with a conditional approval based on these items?
I am.
I would be.
Okay. Sounds like I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, thank you, Alan, for the motion, and Steve for the second. Is there any further discussion on the motion to conditionally approve the road improvement plan filed by Mr. Junior? Okay. I'll go through the roll again. Wayne?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Okay. So we'll work through this. I'm not sure how we'll lay it out for Nick, but we'll lay out, here's what we discussed. We gave Mr. Junior these list of things. If he provides them, we're good.
Good, that'd be great. I really appreciate this. You have no idea. It's been a long time coming. I felt like a ping pong ball here, there, and everywhere for a long time. So I appreciate it. Hopefully, this kind of puts it to bed, and I'll address these things. And if you can do that and give it to the building inspector, and we're all on the same page, that would be awesome. All right.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Okay. Always fun dealing with non-conforming lots and other weird stuff that happens.
I like the outcome.
Yeah, no, I agree. I forget it was Steve or Alan who just talked about like fixing something that we should have, that is a problem. Feels good sometimes.
Yeah.
That was Steve.
Okay. That is the last item on our agenda this evening. Is there anything else anybody wanted to say in open session?
Just one thing I just noticed, I don't know if it's commonplace or not, but on the agenda it says we're live on channel 15. We're actually on channel 9. Does that make a difference for the agenda, or does that change every meeting, or I don't know?
It
I've
may
never
depend
looked
on the
before,
provider.
honestly.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've always been following channel 15 since it's been there, but if our local access
Oh.
channel changed,
We have both 9 and 15.
I'm just saying now we're on 9, I checked. Yeah.
Laura says we have both. I don't know.
Yeah.
So-
You can usually find one live and one is like a recording.
So
So maybe for the help of the public, but for the future agendas, 9 or 15?
all right.
9/15. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
I'm not sure who got the second. It was a tie between
Give it to
Wayne
Wayne.
and Laura.
Doesn't
First day
matter.
back.
Okay. Any further
Good to see you,
discussion?
Wayne.
Any further discussion on the motion to adjourn? Hearing none.
Yes.
You said,
Further discussion.
I asked for discussion, yes.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Same to you. Same to everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Alan. You too. Wayne,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Thank you very much, everybody. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas,
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year.
See you guys.
See you next year.